Hello group, Jeff here. Today I'm going to show you how I use PIPP to get up to and over sometimes 20,000 frames, or the equivalent of 20 500 frame movies into RegiStax. RegiStax can't take more than 1,500 frames without it getting confused. So what I've found through research at the beginning of the year was that PIPP was my answer. PIPP will register all the images. It'll pick the best ones out of all those images, and it'll put, depending on how you set it up, it'll put the worst at the beginning and the best at the end. So let me show you how we can do a simple 2,500 frame stack in PIPP. So the first thing we want to do is load some images. And I'm going to take these 5 because it will go fairly quickly. And what we want to do next is go down to join mode. And what that does is it'll look at all of these images, or I should say animations. And if we did nothing other than just look at the best ones and then make a new movie, it would take all of these images and it could potentially save us a 2,500 frame animation based on this join mode. Then we want to go to the optimize options and select Planetary. This little window you can ignore, that really doesn't do anything for us. So now we want to go to the quality options, which are right here. These two input options and processing options I kind of leave the same. I can show you that I'm cropping the image. Excuse me. And by cropping the image, it's going to make things a little quicker in RegiStax, because RegiStax kind of looks at all the images in an animation, and then if you can knock that useless data out, it really helps it out quite a bit. So in quality options, we want to select the enable quality estimation and just leave everything the way you see it, stock. This is where it's going to take my 2,500 frames and bring it down to 1,200. And I found 1,200 frames to be just about the sweet spot for RegiStax. Then we're going to go, well, I'll take a look at this. I don't do anything with this. The output options, I'm going to select a directory that's on my desktop called PIPP. And you'll see that it changed it here. The output format, we want AVI, and then for the compression, we want it to be the DIB raw uncompressed AVI codec. And when you first install PIPP, towards the end of the install, the installer will ask you if you want to put the VT codecs on, and you want to say yes to that. That'll load codecs that RegiStax uses in the AVI format and that PIPP can make. So this is how you get those AVIs. Now we want to go to do process and select start processing, and you'll see that it's found all the 5 AVIs, and it's seeing 2,495 of them, and it started the first AVI, and it's going to take a little bit to go through these, but not too bad, so we can hang out here while it processes these. PIPP has really been a lifesaver for me because the planets for me are so low in the sky that I'm looking through a lot of atmosphere, and I very rarely have a good night because they're so low. I had a couple, maybe 2. I mean, I'm pushing it at 2 this summer, where I really got some decent images. But other than that, I've been struggling with the planets. And the Jupiter is big compared to Saturn, so my Jupiter stuff has been looking pretty good compared to my Saturn. Saturn is lower in the sky for me than Jupiter is, and it's smaller, so the atmosphere really hurts Saturn. We see we're at number 4. So the process doesn't take too long, but if you have 20 animations that are 500 frames each, you can see you could spend about a half hour just letting the computer crank on those. And this machine is 7 years old, so it does okay. It's not the fastest one I got, but it works. And this is an 8 gig machine, so it's not like it's a high-end. In its day, it was a high-end gaming machine. Okay, so it just created the AVI. So now we can switch over to RegiStax. And we're going to load that AVI, which is on my desktop. That's the folder that PIPP created, and this is the new AVI, and you can see that it's cropped it out nice. One of the things that PIPP does, which I may not have explained, is if I go through this animation step by step here, you'll see that it's registered the planet. And if you had any drift in your tracking, or the atmosphere was really bad, it would get the planet registered so that RegiStax doesn't have to do that. And that's one of the other reasons I really love PIPP. So what I'm going to do is down at the go-to frame, I'm going to go to the middle. Because like I said earlier, the PIPP program is going to take the best 1200 frames it can find and weight them. And it weights them worst to best. So 600 is in the middle. Then I'm going to just kind of scroll through, and I think that one's pretty good. That's the frame I'm going to use to set my points, my alignment points. And I'm going to add some more because I just like the computer to work hard. That's why you make the big bucks. Let's see how many I got here. Yeah, 42 is pretty good. So the next thing I do is down at the lowest quality tab, I turn that to 0. And then align. And it's going to zip through these rather quickly because, as I said earlier, that PIPP has done a fantastic job of aligning all those AVIs, or all those individual frames, into a new AVI. And now that it's finished, I'm going to click on the limits. And what limits is the direction of motion that the points were taken. And you can see by my atmosphere, some of the points were moving quite a bit. And that's not because of drift. If I had drift, they would be much longer. They could be way down. The green lines could go out to here if you have drift. So anything that you're seeing right now is just the atmospherics. And this is excellent. So I'm going to hit stack. She's almost done. And now you can see that we have a new, much better looking Jupiter. I can tell you just by looking at this, it will not be one of my better images, but it won't be bad. So we'll go to Wavelets. And what I like to do is, for an image of this size, the first 3 sliders in the Wavelets function are the ones that control the finer details in an image like this, and because this image is so small, everything in it is fine. When you get into like Barlow, where you're using a Barlow or you're shooting the moon, then the bottom three sliders become more important because that's the bigger detail. So think of the first three as fine, the bottom three is large detail. So in denoise from the first slider, I like to take that up to 30. And then for the sharpen, I go up to 160. Oops, wrong one. Darn it. Sorry. And then for the next slider down, I make this 120. And then 150. This one will get 15. This one will get 140. And then for the noise, I go 10, 130, 10, 120, 10, and whoops, sorry, 110. And I've kind of found through watching videos and reading that these numbers are pretty close to what the majority of people are doing. It's not an exact science, so you know, through trial and error, this is what I came up with. So now I'm going to start dragging sliders, and I don't want to go much past 80 on the first one, maybe 160 for the second one, 144. And you can already see that we've really helped the red spot and some of this stuff in here. And now I'll just play. I don't want to give this too much weight because it adds a lot of unwanted noise at times. But I want to give it something because there is some big detail in there. And this is probably the best I'm going to get this one. Unless someone else has better ideas, but for now, we're going to go to the histogram. And you can see that the image is stretched out kind of nice. I kind of like this. I might crush the whites a little more. Yeah, I like that. We'll go to gamma. To add another anchor point, you have to right click. That's too much. Okay, that'll work. Then I go to the RGB align. And what this does, this function does, is it will determine the out of alignment from the atmosphere that each channel has gotten. So after you create the box for it to look at, you hit estimate. And what you will see when it's done is that these positions change for the red, the blue channels. There we go. So now that's done, you can go to auto balance and you get some pretty good looking color there. Now the last thing I do is I'll drop the contrast down a little bit here. And then I'll up the brightness. To help for the contrast loss. And that kind of evens out the planet a little bit. So I would consider this to be a done image. I hope you appreciate the the Jeff lesson, and I'll see you in the group.